Good evening. It's Tuesday night, 8 to 9 p.m. This is your host, Attorney Amian April Alcazar, here at the Education Channel for the Career Assistance Program. So tonight, we're going to be joined by Mr. Mark Healy, the Associate Director for Career Guidance of the IGM Consulting Group in Australia. And we're going to look at all the opportunities that are going to be available to our stakeholders in the education sector in Australia. So we're looking forward to the Mark, can you give our stakeholders, those in the education channel, some greetings from your end, please?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Very proud member of the IGM Consulting Group. Did you want me to start with my career background?
Yes, well, I'm so very interested to find out, like, how did you actually get into career guidance as a, career?
Yeah, well, originally, before becoming an engineer, I started off what you would call a mechanic, basically. And then I did that through the vet training. And after that, I thoroughly enjoyed that experience. I found that was the best training I ever had throughout my professional career. Post completing that, I went on to do both a civil and mechanical engineering degree.
Yes.
And actually, I did an associate level degree in civil engineering and a bachelor of mechanical. And I then moved into the field of mechanical engineering in major project development all over Australia, with gas, coal-fired power stations, especially in the mining sector. So we do a lot of mining in Australia.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and
being a subcontinent.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was fortunate enough to, for want of a better term, get a lot of good mentoring when I first started my engineering.
Yes.
And I saw the benefit of that. And I also aspired to do the same thing. Later on in your career, as you progress in your career of engineering, whatever that may be, IT, business, you tend to focus more about yourself and getting your career established.
Of course.
Yeah, so after about 15 to 20 years, I sort of thought, I think it's about time I started to share what I already knew.
Definitely.
And then from there, at that time, I sort of decided to do it. There was an issue in the market, the Australian market, with people getting employment. There was a problem with tertiary educated engineers getting employed, and I was approached by some universities. I was marketing to them, and they approached me to come up with some solutions on how they could get work. So from there, that was 10 years ago.
Yes.
Since then, I've been placing I've placed thousands and thousands of graduates all over Australia, and primarily in the regional areas, and I always deal with the sub-Asian market and Asia market. So, you know, one of the biggest issues you face is cultural issues and cultural diversity, understanding that culture. And we have to, as Australians, have to accept the culture, and we have to understand it and work with it as opposed to trying to change it. So I sort of developed some skills in that area, and then I found that through all the iterations that you go through and finding people employment, it always comes back to a couple of fundamental issues.
Yes. So being an engineer, so that's so interesting, because with your technical background, it's very rare to find someone who would actually move over, I would say, to like the soft skill side from the hard skills.
No one understands it.
Yes, and really actually get into like the actual business of mentoring, coaching, and guiding young people towards their career development path. So especially because, like Mark, what we see in the workplace environment is usually a mismatch between the demands of the market or the industry and that of the skills that are being developed. So what do you think is the distinctive feature of like the Australian educational institutions that make it so attractive potentially to our learners and to our students and graduates?
Look, we do a lot of work integrated learning.
Yes.
And we have a very high emphasis on work experience as opposed to purely academic
or theoretical.
And this is one of those cultural issues. You have to accept that a lot of other people do like that.
Yes.
However, in Australia, they'll often say how much work experience you
exactly.
wherever you work. And the key is there are, within our group, we know there are visa issues for people coming into the country to work. So the way around that is we potentially approach employers directly to create graduate programs.
Mhm.
So we have industry, industry-focused learning,
Mhm.
and then after that you have a graduate program which lasts about 3 years.
Mhm.
So you're mentored for 3 years.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there's not an enormous amount of that because it's mainly the larger corporate companies that can afford the expense of that.
Yes.
So you have to put in for the 90% of the rest of the population that's looking for work, you have to put together something for them, and that's what we specialise in.
Mhm.
So that's what we can. It's a bit of, I wouldn't say it's a band-aid solution, but it's certainly something that needs to be done, and we do it now.
Mhm.
And that resolves these issues. What makes it attractive to work in Australia is, one, if there's an enormous amount of diversity in Australia. I'm across all disciplines of engineering.
Mhm.
I also do business as well as IT.
Mhm.
And those sectors in particular have changed enormously in the last 5 years as technology has been changed.
Definitely.
It's really tough to keep up with all the different types of software platforms and technologies that are going. And the engineering is much the same, except there are some basic fundamentals that every engineering discipline has to know.
Yeah.
And those things are what we call the GAP program, which we call the Graduate Accelerator program.
Yes.
So we have done like a training needs analysis for all the different sectors.
Yes.
So if it's oil and gas, if it's mining, whether it's making a caravan or trailer, whether it's electronics, you do a lot of robotics now.
Mhm.
So what I've done is I've put together with the boys what you need to know to physically move into that sector. And then you have to turn your theoretical knowledge into a practical application. So now your capstone projects like on steroids. You know, it's like
Exactly.
you really have to
So
think
it has
about
to be like accelerated.
accelerated. You
Yeah.
have to really apply it now. This is where, and in Australia, there's just enormous amounts of opportunities, and not only that, lots and lots of jobs, particularly in the area of agriculture, in every discipline of engineering.
Wow.
That's-
Biomedical engineering doesn't
Oh my
exist in
God,
the Philippines
no,
yet.
oh my God, don't start me on biomedical. That is just my favourite topic at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
So is it mine?
Yeah, like you've got product design, you've got baby incubators, and they are actually making them
Yes.
and designing them, and
Uh-huh.
those skills are transferable. So the world's changed, with code. We work from home. If you can use the software applications, if in the junior years of your career you can get that experience,
Yes.
you can work from anywhere
Mhm.
and deliver a project,
Mhm.
and at the same time take those skills abroad.
Yeah. So what do you think are the opportunities now for our Filipino students and learners, Mark, in Australia?
Well, let's look at engineering stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so there's almost an unlimited potential at the moment. There's a shortage of something like 600,000 workers.
Really?
Yeah. I've across all disciplines: civil, mechanical, electrical, electronics, process and chemical, petrochemical. In all states, we would have a strong focus on the east coast of Australia, but you can work, in the councils. You can work in major consultancy firms or major contract firms. There's sort of the differential between someone who likes to be office-based and someone that prefers to be on site.
Exactly.
But they're across every sector. And the unfortunate thing is with engineering, it's so complicated. I mean, I could go on for literally hours.
Exactly, right? But I think what we have to emphasize, though, is what IGM Consulting Group is planning to do with the Philippine students,
Yes.
graduates, and learners.
Well, we're going to be focused on, one will be nursing. We have an alignment with a hospital in particular that
Yes.
will be able to take nurses that have completed their 4-year bachelor course here in the Philippines and
Yes.
get them a job in Australia. That will not be an issue because we need 16,000 nurses in Australia at the moment.
Okay. Yes.
In the engineering, we are looking at two. There's across any sector, but with agriculture, we're going to look at within agriculture. There's a drastic need for people to be working on the land and sustainable or food security. And there's a lot of different areas in agriculture. It covers, agriculture, agronomy, what else is there? I'm not particularly familiar with it, but I mean it's something that we've seen that they've just recently, two months ago, looking for 52,000 workers just to fill the needs of the farming community.
Yes. So there's really an enormous demand in Australia.
Enormous, and that's the difficult thing that we face is finding a starting point.
Yeah.
So we're going to be just picking agriculture, nursing, and business will probably be
Yes.
also.
So with those priority areas, Mark, so maybe you can invite our education stakeholders to participate in any programs or projects that the IGM Consulting Group is going to be initiating.
Sure.
Yes.
So would you like me to?
Yes, please, to our audience, if they could definitely identify with the priority areas that you have actually identified.
Yeah, sure. Look, so whereas a big call out for all nursing that wants to has completed their studies or about to complete their studies, we're very interested in what you have in helping you move to Australia. We can take you through, all the processes for visa and all the relevant visa, short courses that you may need to do in Australia, and then in order to get a placement in a hospital, we're looking right now for those people. Cross engineering, I'm always looking across the civil engineering and electronics sectors in particular. In IT, we'll be also looking for people, not just in IT administration. Big data plays a big thing these days. It's very, very important. In agriculture, we will be looking for those that are interested in possibly moving, that might require studying in Australia.
Yes.
If not, we will look at RPLing or recognising your learning in country, try to understand what you have done here through your courses, reduce down the total amount of time you need to study in Australia so that you can then move straight into the agricultural sector. I mean, that covers, we've got pretty much every aspect of agriculture in Australia, including wineries and any particular type of food, bottled water, jams,
Yes.
Any canned
Food processing
you can possibly think of. And that also, at the moment we do that, we're also then leveraging into packaging, which is where the mechanical and the electronics automation kicks in with the robots. And in agriculture now, there's also a big push towards drones and monitoring the farms,
Yes.
as well as pesticides and herbicides and sustainable or chemicals that can be used that don't harm the environment as much. So there's an enormous push on for sustainable solutions.
Yes.
And so, if you're interested, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes. So thank you so much, Mark, for spending time with us and providing us this information for all of the opportunities that are going to be available in Australia.
Sure.
And hopefully through IGM Consulting Group and our collaboration with the Education Channel. So it's a pleasure to have you with us, and maybe just some parting words of encouragement to our listeners at the Education Channel.
Yes, look, guys, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I've been here for about a week, and I've loved it. We'll be coming back every quarter, essentially, back in August, probably back in December. We'd love to hear from you. We have our offices here based in Makati, and we're looking to expand our offices as well, but at the moment it's Makati, and you can contact Ivan and Cyril or myself. So if you have any issues, you have any queries, if you want to have some FaceTime with us and ask any questions regarding, what a lot of people want to know what the end point is, what are the opportunities out there, I'm more than happy to provide you with that information, and then we can just work backwards to where you are now and how we get you there.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Healy, the Associate Director for Career Guidance of the IGM Consulting Group. So